Hello everybody, Dominic aka Amon back with another video. I actually just recorded this video once, but unfortunately my camera cropped my face out, so now we're recording it again. Last time, we reviewed Dr. Dre's The Chronic 2001 and talked a little bit about his unreleased album Detox. Today, we're going to be reviewing Kanye's college trilogy, including The College Dropout, Late Registration, and Graduation, which I do not own on vinyl because I do not think he ever did an official print of it. And without further ado, let's talk a bit about these albums. Released in 2004, The College Dropout is actually arguably my first or second favorite in this trilogy and in Kanye's discography as a whole, with Graduation being my first or second, depending on where The College Dropout falls. It's kind of a toss-up between those two albums. So The College Dropout was originally going to be released earlier in January of 2004, or even earlier than that in 2003. However, several months before its release in February of 2004, its entirety was leaked at the end of 2003, resulting in Kanye changing up some of the production, the beats. I believe he changed the beat for Jesus Walks and Never Let Me Down just a bit to make it sound better, and he removed some tracks, such as his song Wow, which he does mention, and sample, I guess you could say, some lines or recycle some lines from that track at the end on Last Call, which is very underrated, by the way. I know it's really long and isn't as replayable in your playlist as other songs on that album, but it's literally the story of his come up and how he became a legend on his first album. Who else has that? And yeah, in 2005, we got the follow-up to The College Dropout being Late Registration. Now, where The College Dropout focused heavily on soul samples and that chiptune style of rap, as you saw a shift from hard gangster rap, such as Eminem, 50 Cent, Nas, Jay-Z, all these other people, you saw even Hove's production started to change a bit, and Jay-Z started to lighten up a bit. You had Kanye producing beats for all these other people, such as Mos Def and Common and Scarface, and you could feel the production and rap changing from about 2002 to 2004 when The College Dropout released. Then in 2005, as I said, we got Kanye's follow-up, The Late Registration, which featured a lot of people originally on The College Dropout, same techniques, same sampling, but heavier use of live instrumentation and live session musicians. So he'd have session musicians and vocalists come in and lay the tracks down and recreate these samples or interpolate them, as the term's called. That way he could legally use them without actually sampling from the original master audio of the track, which is how it was done on The College Dropout. So yeah, I believe that Late Registration was probably the best way Kanye could have followed up The College Dropout, and it made for one of the perfect sequel albums, with The College Dropout arguably being one of the perfect debut albums. 2 years after Late Registration, Kanye would go on to release Graduation, and he would have a little friendly sales battle with 50 Cent for the release of 50 Cent's third album himself, titled Curtis, following Get Rich or Die Trying and The Massacre, which was actually supposed to be titled A Bloody Valentine or Valentine's Day Massacre, I do believe, until 50 changed it. And on the release of Graduation in 2007, Kanye would shift away from that soul sample live instrumentation production a bit, and he'd still use it and incorporate it because it's, part of the trilogy and it's Kanye West, so it was like his thing. But he went on tour, and I don't remember who it was with. I want to say it was like a rock band, but I can't remember which one. I'll throw the name on the screen here. I know it wasn't Daft Punk or Pink Floyd. I really don't think. But that inspired him to make a more concert, grand, electronic-oriented themed album, which is where we got Graduation from. And Graduation, as I said, still featured some of these soul sample techniques and chiptune style, but it was more focused on synthesizers, electronic music, bigger drums, bigger, grander vocals, used a bit of auto-tune, which The College Dropout used a bit of auto-tune too, on Jesus Walks and whatnot. But this leaned into it a bit more, leaned into the singing, catchy style a bit more, and was really focused at selling copies and being popular and beating 50 Cent's Curtis, which it did. I believe it sold like 700,000 copies in its first week, I want to say, which is big, like, especially for nowadays, where we only sell 100,000 to 300,000 copies, if that, and you get a number one. Kanye, like, blew this thing out the water. And I do believe it's sold over 3 million or 7 million copies since then. I don't think it's certified diamond, but it's certified multi-platinum. Same for the College Dropout and Late Registration. And yeah, like I said, Graduation's either my first or second favorite, and I say that because I think it's his best produced album of his career and the pinnacle of his career, other than maybe My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Personally, Graduation is like his biggest one for me, and it is his best selling. Obviously, it has some of his biggest songs ever on it, like Stronger and I Wonder, and all not all of the lights. Sorry, Flashing Lights. You know, all that good stuff. And Can't Tell Me Nothing. Like, you could just keep naming off tracks on there. You know what I'm saying? I could go through the whole discography right now, and every track would be a hit, pretty much. But yeah. So, other than that, the only reason the College Dropout might have an edge on it for me is because of the nostalgia factor. I remember first listening to that album when I was first really learning how to make music. Not write it, but produce it and put it together and actually make songs and full tracks rather than just writing lyrics and spitting them in high school. And I was actually going on to college in that year and listening to the College Dropout just at the start and all the way through college and even now through life. It's just inspired me to keep going and be a better person, an artist, and just try harder. It's always let me know, that there's a different route. Even if you stumble and you fall along the way, even if you drop out of college, even if you're not perfect, all you got to do is be you and just keep your head held high and just do your thing, and you'll get there eventually. Even if it takes a while, you just got to keep grinding, because anyone with that much ambition, that much of a grind, is bound to get somewhere. Kanye's mother said it herself. But yeah, with that, let's get into rating these albums, starting with The College Dropout. Okay, so first up we got Kanye's College Dropout with We Don't Care. I gave this song an 8 because personally I feel like it's a great intro and a good start to the album, especially after that first skit. It makes for a funny song, especially with the kids singing the hook, and I just love it. It really shows you what you're going to be getting for these next two projects. Then we have Graduation Day, which I gave a 7 because it's a skit, pretty much, / interlude. And I don't rate skits or interludes, but if they're mainly musical, then sometimes I'll throw them in there. And this is a good track. I love Kanye's use of auto-tune and creative effects. I feel like it really shows us what we're going to get on some of his future projects, like 808s and Heartbreak, or Yay, or Kids See Ghosts, stuff like that, where it's more experimental with the vocals. But he didn't lean into it too much, and I feel like he did it just right, because he uses these creative effects for segments or outros or interludes on tracks. And it allows you to see what he's going to do in the future, but he knows he ain't really on that right now, so he doesn't go out of his way to try to make a full album with it, you know what I'm saying? But regardless, I still gave it a 7, because it's not an 8. It's a solid track and a good interlude, so it ain't like a 6 or a 5 or lower. So 7 it is. All Falls Down. This is a great track. A lot of views. One with a music video on the album. And for me personally, I love this track because me and a friend always listen to it every time we go on a drive. And it was actually the first thing we listened to together on our first drive when we, I guess you could say, became friends. It's just a nice memory track. Same for stuff like Jesus Walks and Never Let Me Down. But yeah, All Falls Down, 10 out of 10. I'll Fly Away is another good interlude one, but I gave it an 8 instead of a 7 like Graduation Day, because it just perfectly transitions from All Falls Down to Spaceship, in my opinion, and I love the track. I love the Southern choir on there with the piano. It's real simple, real laid back, nothing complicated, but it's a great interlude, perfect for the album, and really sets the tone. 8 out of 10. Spaceship, solid track, love the message, love the features, love the beat and lyrics. It does feel a little out of place on the album, and I didn't give it a 10 out of 10 because it ain't nothing like All Falls Down and Jesus Walks, but I still love the track and it's one of my favorites, so it got a 9 out of 10. Never Let Me Down, I debated on giving a 10. I feel like it has some of Jay-Z's best lyrics, at least from what he gave to Kanye. Because, like, on Graduation, you'll get tracks later, like Good Night, where he literally just spits a couple bars and repeats it. He ain't even trying. There's a lot of times I just feel like he craps on a Kanye record because he ain't really see Kanye like that. He's like, Kanye ain't a good lyricist. He's just a producer. So I don't have to come with hard lyrics to match him. Never Let Me Down, though, great track. They both went par for par. I love that song. 9 out of 10, almost a 10 out of 10. Probably my fourth favorite track on this album. Slow Jams, sorry, we're skipping ahead a bit. Get 'Em High is first. And I gave that a 7 out of 10 because I like the track. It's a good track. It's got a good beat, some good lyrics. But I feel like, I don't know, it doesn't really fit the college theme. It's nothing really about college. It felt like a filler track almost. So, 7 out of 10. New Workout Plan, I'm not gonna lie, kind of felt the same, but I do like that track. I like the production, I like the comedy aspect of it, and I like what it gave birth to later. Like J. Cole's track that sampled it, you know, and I've sampled that track before. So it does hold a special place in my heart, and I didn't give it a 7, but I didn't give it a 9 or a 10 either. So it got an 8 out of 10. Slow Jams, pretty good track, really good track actually. Believe that's the one that features Twista. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Breathe In, Breathe Out, similar situation to Get 'Em High, 7 out of 10. School Spirit's a nice one, and I feel like it really fits the vibe of the album, so it got an 8 out of 10. Two Words, I debated on giving it a 9 out of 10 like Slow Jams, but it just doesn't hit quite as hard for me. It's a nice track, but I could have done without it. It's not a 7 out of 10, it's still good, so 8 out of 10. Through the Wire, classic track that like everyone remembers on here, other than Jesus Walks and All Falls Down, both of which got a 10. Through the Wire also got a 10. And I mean, how can you really deny this? Kanye spit this through the wire. Produced, spit it, wrote it, recorded it, everything. And he gave it his all. This really demonstrates who Kanye is and what his whole image and style is about. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Family Business is another great track. It really touches the heartstrings, you know what I mean? I gave it a 9 out of 10. Last Call, I was debating on a 7 or 8 because for replayability, it's not something I'd listen to again and again and again, but I do feel like it's the perfect closing to this album. And like I said, who really had a track about them becoming a legend in the game on their first debut album? You know what I'm saying? So 9 out of 10. The average score on the College Dropout, when you add all those tracks up and divide it by the total number of 16 tracks, you get an 8.5. Do I agree with this? Hell no. As I said before, the College Dropout is a timeless classic, a foundational record for modern hip-hop, and a great music record in general, just regardless of genre, whether you're talking soul, hip-hop, R&B, whatever. Great album. I give the album a 10 out of 10. And with that, let's go through Late Registration here real quick. Heard Him Say, another good opening track, good features, good lyrics, good production, 9 out of 10. Touch the Sky, love this track. Gets me hyped every time, 10 out of 10. Gold Digger is an obvious 10 out of 10. It's the best or considered the best song on the record. It is the most streamed, I do believe. Drive Slow, nice track. I like the track, but it's just not quite as good as like Heard Him Say or even Crack Music in my opinion. I like Drive Slow, just not that much. I like the message and production and style on other tracks better. 8 out of 10. My Way Home is a short interlude kind of track, but it had potential. 7 out of 10. Crack Music is a good one. I love the message, production, and lyrics. I even love the games verse, and I debated on giving it a 9, but I gave it an 8 out of 10. Then you have Roses, another heart-touching track, emotional, but good production, good lyrics, good storytelling. 9 out of 10. Bring Me Down got a 7 out of 10 as well, because it's a more interlude-style track. Or no, sorry. Bring Me Down is a full track, but I only remember it for the hook. That's why I always think it's an interlude every time I see it. That's why I gave it a 7 out of 10. I mean, it is a good track. It is. Don't get me wrong. but it just ain't the one for me. I wouldn't replay it again and again. Addiction, 8 out of 10. Diamonds from Sierra Leone remix, I gave it a 9 because I feel like it's got some good lyrics by both Hove and Kanye, great production, and a crazy message. We Major, 9 out of 10. Hey Mama, 10 out of 10. If you're going to argue with me, bro, get off the video. Hey Mama, 10 out of 10. Celebration, I don't really care for this track. It's arguably like the lowest track for me on the album. I'm not going to lie. I don't care for the production a whole lot with all those high-pitched squeaky noises. Sounds like it's coming straight out your computer, you know what I mean? It sounds like you're recording into the interface and you're distorting it and you're getting that digital hiss and distortion, but then you're like, man, I'm going to use this for an instrument. I just don't care for it all that much. So Celebration gets a 7 out of 10. Gone, 9 out of 10. Great record, great beat switch at the end, crazy flows by Kanye. Diamonds from Sierra Leone, the original, I debated on giving it an 8, just one step lower than the remix, but I was like, 9 out of 10. Late is a good one, good closing track, but I don't really care for it all that much. I debated on giving it a 7 or an 8, but I decided on a 7 out of 10. So yeah, here's what it is. This album actually got the same average score as The College Dropout with an 8.5, and I personally believe it's a 10. So, as I said before, perfect follow-up to The College Dropout, and it actually tied with it score-wise, so that's kind of ironic. And finally, we'll talk a little bit about Kanye's Graduation with only 14 tracks. Good Morning, I debated on giving it a 10, but listen, it's my alarm, and I wake up to that every morning, and I've got tired of that track. I actually skip it when it comes on, so I can recognize that it's a good track. But dude, man, I can't really stand it anymore. And that's my own fault. 9 out of 10. Champion, a lot of people like that track, and it's got some good numbers streaming-wise. I don't. 7 out of 10. Stronger, 10 out of 10, obviously. I wonder, I was going to give it a 10, but I feel like that one just blew up because of TikTok. It's not really that crazy. Yeah, it fits on the album. The production's good. The lyrics are good. It's kind of comedic at times, and it fits that Kanye vibe and theme. But it ain't that great. It ain't like Stronger or Can't Tell Me Nothing or Flashing Lights. 9 out of 10. Good Life, I felt like this was a nice one. Pretty sure that's the one with T-Pain on it. It's got the use of auto-tune, and it really kind of gave us a feel for what we were about to get with 808s and Heartbreak, as well as Kanye's singles after this album. So 9 out of 10. Can't Tell Me Nothing, for a while, was my favorite song like ever and my favorite Kanye song ever. So 10 out of 10, it has to be. Barry Bonds is a great one, a hit. It's got Lil Wayne on it, but I just don't like it as much as some of the other tracks. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. Drunken Hot Girls, I debated on an 8 out of 10 too, because I love this song, and I actually love the production. But what knocked it down a bit is that I don't feel like it really fits the vibe of this album as much as it should, unfortunately. I feel like it's the standout track. And while Spaceship was like that on The College Dropout, and I gave it a 9 out of 10, there's a lot of people who just think that Drunken Hot Girls is the worst track on the album. And for an album of all these amazing tracks, yeah, I can agree with that. I might put it a bit over Champion, because I just don't like Champion that much myself. But at the end of the day, still a 7 out of 10. Flashing Lights, literally Kanye's biggest track on Spotify, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Nobody's going to argue with that one. Everything I Am fits the vibe of the album. Good song, good lyrics, good production, but it's not crazy. 8 out of 10. Same for The Glory, 8 out of 10, but I debated on giving that one a 9. Homecoming, I gave it a 9 out of 10. Big Brother, I also gave a 9 out of 10, which a lot of people might not agree with, but I like the message and story behind that track. I like Kanye, essentially giving Jay-Z his credit and his flowers where he deserves them. And at the same time, he was able to call out, the little discrepancies and issues he had with Jay-Z over the years, and their sibling rivalries, he called it. And, a lot of stuff he pointed out, whether good or bad, about Jay-Z, actually came up in the future. Like all Jay-Z all the times he went behind Kanye, getting shows with people Kanye was getting shows and features with, doing tracks and stuff with people Kanye was doing tracks and stuff with. Every time he saw Kanye doing good at something, he copied it so he could keep his own career going. And if you look back through time and through history, you'll see that. There's no hiding that. And it just got more and more relevant over the years, and now look where we're at. So, yeah, not only for the message, but for what came of it, unfortunately. 9 out of 10 track. And good night. I think this is an annoying outro. I'm sorry. And like I said, I think Jay-Z crapped all over this track and came with nothing. I don't like this track, and I debated on giving it a 6 out of 10, but I'm a nice guy. 7 out of 10, and this is my least favorite song on the album. We could have done without it. And I do believe it's considered a bonus track, but I'm including it in this rating. So when you average it all up, the average score is an 8.6. The college dropout and late registration were both an 8.5, so this is only 0.1 point higher. However, personally, I give it a 10 out of 10, and as I said, I would either rank these albums number 1, Graduation, number 2, College Dropout, number 3, Late Registration, or number 1, College Dropout, number 2, Graduation, number 3, Late Registration. However you want to put it. I do think these are some of the best albums in Kanye's career, in rap and in music in general. And yeah, well everybody, thank you for watching. But that'll about do it. If y'all enjoyed this video, I can rate more of Kanye's other albums, or albums from other artists such as Dr. Dre, Eminem, Nas, MF Doom, Common, Jay-Z, anybody. You guys just let me know. Next, I probably will move on to MF Doom and Eminem though, just as a personal preference, until I can start getting recommendations and whatnot. But yeah, that'll be all. So if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell, because what the hell. Also drop a like and leave a hype, because it really helps out. If I don't see you next time, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.